it's nice and all that Capcom are on such a roll when it comes to remaking entries in the Resident Evil franchise and updating it for modern audiences, but you'd think they'd be able to spare a little extra time to give some love to yet another of its esteemed titles, that being Dino Crisis. That's right. There are Dino Crisis fans out there. There are literally dozens of us, and we demand to be taken seriously. New Dino Crisis when? Heck, I'd even take the remake treatment. Dino Crisis 1, 2, ripe for the picking. We don't talk about Dino Crisis 3, it never happened. But regardless, in the face of such abject neglect from the likes of Capcom, when it comes to a guaranteed moneymaker, naturally fans are going to have to take things into their own hands, which is where we stand now. Because if anything is truly worth doing, it's worth doing as a Doom mod. So believe it or not, this video is actually going to cover multiple mods that all synergize real nice together, but the baseline foundation for this is a mod by the name of Dino Crisis 2 Weapons. This is a mod by Cosmobyte that doesn't just bring in the weapon roster as is and, bind them to the individual number weapon keys. It actually brings the points mechanic of Dino Crisis 2 into the gameplay of Doom itself. So the more enemies you kill in succession, the higher your combo count, the higher the points you receive. You can then spend said points in the in-game shop to purchase additional weapons, because you're not actually going to be able to find these in the wild during the course of the map. On top of the weapons, this mod also sprinkles in, yep, you guessed it, Velociraptors. Quite a lot of them. In fact, Velociraptors replace roughly 99% of the enemies here. They do come in a few subtle shapes and sizes, but for the most part, that's what you're going to be blasting away at, save for the Cyber Demon, which gets swapped out for a T-Rex. In terms of the weapon roster itself, it will actually change depending on what character you pick as. When it came to the more vanilla style playthrough, I picked Dylan. He kicks off with a pump-action shotgun, and in terms of what else you can pick up from the shop, if you've got enough points, you can buy the anti-tank rifle, the flamethrower, the solid cannon, and the rocket launcher. Out of all of these, I'd say the most effective by far is the solid cannon. I recall it being pretty damn useful in base Dino Crisis 2 itself. It's an energy weapon that drops this lingering energy ball that will continuously deal damage, and you can kite enemies into it and they just drop friggin' dead. It's great. Now, on the basis of all this, I can imagine someone maybe getting a bit bored of almost exclusively having to deal with nothing but raptors all the time throughout the course of this mod, which is where another mod by the name of Dino Rampage comes into play. This brings a much greater variety of dinosaurs into the fray, and yes, can indeed be combined with this particular weapons mod, which is an ideal situation to take the other character, Regina, for a spin. Regina's loadout starts out in a less beefy fashion than that of Dylan. Your opening weapon is merely a handgun, but if you're playing a relatively enemy-heavy map like I am here with Maps of Chaos, it shouldn't really take you too long to rack up the necessary points to supplement yourself with something a little beefier. On that front, there is actually a suite of sub-weapons here that are shared across both characters. The first, which I found extremely useful, is the Firewall, which does pretty much exactly what you expect it to. Will lay down a flame barrier in front of you, and enemies that stray into it will take damage, and is tremendously effective if you've got yourself a bottleneck set up. The second available sub-weapon here, though, is the Chain Mine. Didn't really get as much use out of this one as I'd like, and in terms of how it deploys a string of mines in a line. Not quite as useful in my opinion as being able to deploy that horizontal line of fire. That said, though, you can only really take advantage of sub-weapons such as the Firewall if you're wielding a single-hander style weapon, which is certainly not the case when you upgrade to the likes of the dual SMGs, which, in a fashion I always appreciate, can indeed be individually fired with Mouse 1 and Mouse 2. Other weapons in Regina's side of the shop includes the heavy machine gun, naturally another two-hander that just makes you feel like goddamn Rambo when you're firing it at full pelt. The flamethrower also makes an appearance here. Again, fire, very effective. And at the top end, Regina also has access to a rocket launcher, however, in function, a little different from that of Dylan's. Where his seems to be more of a dumbfire single rocket projectile, Regina's is actually a triple rocket with what seems to be additional homing capabilities. Much like the base game, both characters have a melee option. Dylan's got his machete, which can be upgraded, as to can be Regina's stun baton. But there's no real utility for them here. Back in the game, it was to hack away at vines, for Dylan to access certain areas, and for Regina, it was to shock certain door controls so you could just get straight through them. We don't need no stinking key cards or keys here. This ain't survival horror in Dino Crisis 2. It's survival action, damn it! I'm not kidding. I genuinely love Dino Crisis 2. It's ridiculous. You should play it. Anyways, on top of the weapons that you can also purchase from the shop, you can also acquire additional ammunition, you can acquire health items should you need them, and you can purchase additional tools. This would be like the equivalent of, say, an auto map, buying a berserker kit, or even an environmental suit, which here would be in the form of a gas mask. Now, these are typically still part of whatever given level you'll be playing through, so there's not often much need for this, but hey, I guess it's nice to have the option. Certainly a fan of being able to buy my medkits on demand. But yeah, overall this weapon and gameplay pack certainly favors more action-packed levels. If you're playing something that's slow and moody, it's going to take an absolute age for you to build up that point score so you can actually acquire additional weapons, which is something that I certainly found when I decided to play this very specific Dino Crisis inspired map here, which is Operation Ibis Island, which recreates the map and layout and some of the puzzles and keys and all that kind of cool stuff from the OG Dino Crisis. Naturally, with this kind of map, the pace is a heck of a lot slower and deliberate. Enemy encounters are much more spaced out, so this particular weapon pack, the Dino Crisis 2 weapon pack, very unsuitable for the kind of gameplay that this kind of map is trying to pursue. Works nicely with Carnivore Disaster though, if you want to swap out the Vanilla Doom enemies for actual dinosaurs, and I imagine would play nice with more grounded, less gimmick-dependent weapon loadouts. In a more ideal kind of composition, truth is, Dino Crisis 2 weapons are a lot of fun to play with. It's nice to build up those points in order to get the chunkier, more effective weapons. Though a part of me can't help but wonder how it might play if there was an option to acquire these weapons through the natural course of a level through standardized pickups. Difficulty-wise, I largely stuck to the normal option out of normal and hard, and I figured if I was going to be playing on something like Maps of Chaos with a much elevated monster count, then that would probably help make up the difference in terms of challenge. Truth be told, these dinosaurs get their asses kicked. So yeah, if you're in the mood for something more than simple dino slaughter catharsis, then dialing it up to hard might make it worth your while. Anyways, if you find yourself interested enough in this to give it a whirl for yourself, you'll find the links, as usual, in the description below. Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you'd like to help support what I do on this channel and elsewhere, why not throw a little bit of coin at my Patreon. $1 a month will get you on the list, keeps the channel free of sponsor reads, keeps the lights on, and allows me to subsist on a diet that's a little bit more nutritious than tinned beans. Oh yeah, and you also get early access videos where available. In any case, at the very least, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and until next time, this has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.